theyeshiva.net.
Yeah, to bring the carbon chagiga, you had to have a few conditions. First of all, it had to be weekdays, right? It also had to be pure, betara, and you had to have a small carbon pesach that wouldn't be enough to feed the people. So the chagiga wasn't always brought. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't. It's not vital for the seder.
So there was too much carbon pesach.
If you have a few people eating the carbon pesach, it could be anything. It could be a sheep, it could be a goat, it could be a cow. If you have a small little family doing a carbon pesach, they'll have enough to eat. They'll be satiated. If you're having a seder of 60 people, and everybody's going to get a kazayas from the carbon pesach, you brought a chagiga. That's why you'll see that if it's Mitzvah Shabbos, when you do the seder Mitzvah Shabbos, like this year, right? We say at the end, V'noichal sham min hazvachim min apsachim. Right, but Mitzvah Shabbos, many change. V'noichal sham, right? Min hapsachim min hazvachim. Because the seder that's Mitzvah Shabbos, they weren't makriv the chagiga on Shabbos. So the zevach, there were shlomim that they used to bring for Yom Tov, that would be brought later. So therefore they say min apsachim min hazvachim, not min hazvachim min apsachim, because they weren't makriv the chagiga and ate it before the Pesach. So it was dependent. And of course you didn't make a bracha on it. The question here in the Mishnah is if you're eating both. So there's two brachas to make. The question is, could you make one bracha and exempt the other one? You make two brachas, but if you made only on Pesach, Rabbi Shmuel says you're yotzeh for the zevach, and Rabbi Kiva says no, you're not.
Why is there a difference in order between Pesachim and Pesachim?
Yeah, because on a regular seder you eat the zevach before the Pesach. V'noichal sham min hazvachim or min apsachim. You eat the chagiga by dinner, and then you eat the Pesach at the end of the dinner, at the end of the seder, like by the afikoyman. But in a time when it was Shabbos, so you weren't allowed to be makriv a carbon on Shabbos. Besides the carbon pesach. The carbon pesach you could do on Shabbos. Usually an individual carbon you're not allowed to bring makriv on Shabbos because it's a malacha. Shechting is a malacha. Right? And burning the meat, everything, it's a malacha. So communal sacrifices you could do on Shabbos, like the carbon tamid. The carbon pesach was also a special dispensation. You're allowed to do it on Shabbos. But the carbon chagiga I can't do on Shabbos. So if Erev Pesach was Shabbos, I'm not eating min hazvachim or min apsachim. Oh, because it includes all sacrifices. There were nidarim, nidavais, chagiga. It was just different karbonas. Shalmei chagiga. Yeah. So the Gemara taught us, what was the conclusion of this Gemara here on Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph? That Rabbi Shmuel holds that if I make a bracha on the Pesach, I exempt any other bracha, if I did. Of course, I can eat the chagiga first and make a bracha on it. That's not a problem. But if I made a bracha on Pesach, I exempt the chagiga, but not the other way around. And Rabbi Akiva says, no. Everyone has a separate bracha, and even if you made a bracha on the Pesach first, you can't be poiter. The carbon chagiga, it has a separate bracha. And the Gemara associated and tried to explain the logic behind this argument. What would be the logic? Stam, there has to be some theme behind it. So the Gemara tried to connect it to another argument between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, and say that it's possible that Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva argue about the second item, and hence we can understand the argument of the first item in our Mishnah. And that is what? There are two types of karbonas. There are karbonas where you had to sprinkle the blood with a keli, and there's karbonas where you had to pour the blood with a keli. Not to confuse with the carbon chatas where you had to place it with your finger on the mizbeach, on the corners. But here we're talking about the karbonas where you always used a vessel, which was most karbonas. So a carbon oila and a carbon shlamim and a carbon asham and a carbon pchar. You took the keli and you sprinkled the blood right on two corners of it. Two corners, like we always say, ha'oila kodesh kadashim shchitas batzafin v'kibul dama b'chli sharis batzafin v'dama ton shtei matanos shehein arba, because you wanted to get it on the two corners, the one hitting, let's say, you have the two corners, that's why saviv, right? You do two angles in one corner and then two angles in another corner, so you got it on all four walls, all four sides of the mizbeach. That's called saviv. That's most karbanos, the oila and the asham and the shlamim and the b'chayr. And shlamim includes a lot of karbanos that are shlamims, that are all their shlamim. Like you have the toida and you have the el nazir, like you have a lot of karbanos. The chatas is an exception. And you have also the oila, the asham, the b'chayr, and the shlam, where the Torah says clearly to sprinkle. The only two exceptions are what? Ma'aseh behema and Pesach, and over there the Torah doesn't even say to sprinkle the blood, but we learn from another pasuk that all the karbonos have to be poured. V'dams v'checha yishafech etzel mizbech Hashem alakecha, and from here we learn that the carbon Pesach is done b'shvicha. We take the vessel and we bring it to the wall and we actually pour it on the actual wall. And it trickles down to the ledge, to the yesod of the Mizbeach, and we're good. And you only do it once. I told you there's one opinion, Rabbi Yosef Glili, who says that carbon Pesach you also sprinkle, but even he agrees that it's only one matana. You don't do two sides. Maybe the word is not sprinkle. Do they use the word sprinkle for zrika? I keep on using the word sprinkle. What do they use as zrika? Throwing? Okay, throwing the blood. Throwing, I guess. Throw, yeah. And pour is I'm very precise. I go close to the wall and I almost control the direction.
It's the same kind of keli, though, right?
Yeah, the same keli. But either I stand from a distance, because I'm not right there and pour. You don't throw it if you're right there. I go away from a distance and I go like that. That's zrika. I throw it, and in shvichas, I mamish come close to the wall. Some even say the kohen stands on the ledge, on the yesod, because the yesod went out like 1.5 feet or 2 feet, so he stands on the ledge. That's not clear. Some say yes, some say not, but he's right there, and he pours it on the wall.
But if that, the finger would also be a throw.
No, chatas, you take the finger and you put it on the corners. It's a dip. It's a dip. Toivel etzboi badam. Yom Kippur, you have a combination. Yom Kippur, you go into the Holy of Holies, your finger, you throw the blood. Achas lamayla v'shava lamata.
So the finger that happens is a white. It's
Yeah.
an index finger.
Yeah. On the corners, yeah. The only carbon that's not with a keli is carbon chatas. Carbon chatas.
Finger's not considered.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
Yeah, because on a deeper level it says, because tshuva, you have to go out of a keli. You have to go out of your kelim. That's what tshuva is. You understand? A keli is a container. It's a limiting container. Like we're learning in Likkutei Torah, the Maimer of Matayvu and Balak. What are we learning? That the whole purpose of life is to do tshuva. Because the neshama, the way it's before this world, it's in kelim. And when you come into this world, you go out of the kelim. Because that's what real tshuva is. Tshuva always comes from a certain frustration, a certain tension. And that causes you to transcend your vessels. We all have vessels that we live in. Containers, which are important. But tshuva is the going out of the keli. You shatter the vessel. That's the power of it. There's something infinite about it. It's the cry, it's the yearning. It's about transformation. So the carbon chatas, fascinatingly, the blood is not from a keli. It's the only thing that goes out of the keli. All the other carbonas remain in a keli. And there's so many halachas, where you put the blood, how you put the blood. Like it's pretty interesting.
So that is where the blood is where the nefesh lives, right?
Yeah. Habdam huwa nefesh. The blood is the soul. And by tshuva, it goes out of a keli. Because that's what tshuva is. You go out of your kelim. That's why you have to do tshuva. If you were comfortable in your keli, you would never do tshuva. Tshuva means I'm uncomfortable in my keli. My structure is frustrating me. And I go beyond it. And in many ways, that's the purpose of life, to become a bal tshuva, to go out of the kelim. A very interesting thing with karbonos is also, you speak about throwing the blood. Where do you throw the blood? The Mizbeach was a tall structure on the upper half or the lower half. And there were different karbonos. Some karbonos you had to throw the blood, what's called beyond the chut hasikra, beyond the red string, right? You had to do it on the upper half, and if you did it on the lower half, wasn't good, or the other way around. So it's extremely interesting, all these things. Yeah. No, you didn't need, yeah. The kohen shechted, somebody took a keli and placed it by the animal to receive the blood. That's called Kabbalah. Then there was something called halacha. You take the keli, you bring it to the altar. And then there was the zrika. Yeah. And with the carbon Pesach, it wasn't zrika, it was shvicha. The Karban Pesach was a whole system because there were so many people, it had to be done very fast. So they had from the Shechita till the Mizbeach, they had a row of Kayanim, right, who would pass the vessels to each other. Like I would get it from the guy who received it, I would give it to you, you would give it to him. He was by the Mizbeach, he poured it, and then he sent the Keli back with another row as it was happening. So it was like this, conveyor belt, literally. Because remember, you can have thousands and thousands and thousands all in the afternoon. Every Jew brought a Karban Pesach. Men, women, it was...
Why would they put colors in the came in silver gold?
Yeah, silver.
Why was it going in it? What was it?
I don't remember. There was a reason, I don't remember. There's a reason for it.
They were made so they couldn't stand on their own.
Yeah, they didn't want it should congeal, the blood should congeal, yeah. Of course, it's very meticulous. It's very precise exactly how it happened. There's intricacies of halachas here. You can assume one of two things. Either nothing makes sense or everything makes sense. These types of things, either nothing makes sense or everything makes sense, yeah? Lahavdil Einstein once said either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. You have to choose which philosophy in life, huh?
The last step, Zrika, the Shechita was calm.
Yeah, so the Zrika was the ultimate,
So his Shechita,
that's what's mechaper the carbon.
his Makshava, there was
Pigul,
yeah, it was a pigul.
yeah. So pigul can happen either through Shechita or Halacha or Kabbalah or Halacha or Zrika. One of those four. At any stage, yeah. Because those are the four avodas that really make the carbon happen.
Cuts off after Zrika. We don't
Yeah. After that, you can go home and go home and read the newspaper. Just take off your big day kahuna and go home and read the newspaper.
strange stuff, but as long as it was after Zrika, then we got. It's
Right.
not-
It's not, yeah. Yeah. In other words, when I'm involved in the avodah, my mental state becomes very, very critical, which is unique in Judaism because usually the mental state, you asked before about machshava, right? We learned that the machshava zaris of tzaddikim are more serious than avoinus of amaras. We see it in pigul, that your mental state actually completely disqualifies a carbon. And according to some Rishonim, you don't even have to verbalize it. Even if it didn't come into divor, it's mamash a thought. It's a crazy thing. I just had a thought. Am I in control? A thought came into me. I don't want to eat it today. I want to eat it tomorrow. I want to sprinkle the blood tomorrow. I want to burn it tomorrow. But, boom. Chorus. Really? What am I eating? What am I eating? Poison? I'm not eating poison. Yeah, you're eating poison. Why? Because somebody's thoughts. A guy had a thought, and the meat became poison. Chorus means it's poison for the soul. It cuts off the soul. It's a fascinating halacha. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Karbonis is different. Okay, now, so what was the conclusion? What did the Gemara try to say? That according to Rabbi Yishmael, Zrika b'chlal shvicha, meaning shvicha is all-inclusive. So if any carbon is brought through shvicha, it's good. It's not the way to do it, but if I take a chagiga and instead of throwing the blood, I pour the blood, I'm good. But not the other way around. If I throw the blood of the Pesach, it's not good. So Rabbi Shmuel says, so now I understand. If you make a bracha on Pesach, it includes chagiga because the chagiga, in some sense, is part of the Karban Pesach. Part of the laws that govern the Karban Pesach, but not the other way around. If I make the bracha on chagiga, I'm not yotzei for the Pesach. Rabbi Akiva holds, no, Zrika is not b'chlal shvicha, and shvicha is not b'chlal Zrika, so therefore the brachas can't exempt each other. I did want to clarify one thing. I asked yesterday the question that there's a contradiction in Rambam. That the Rambam apparently contradicts himself very heavily because in Hilchas Psulei HaMekudashin, which are the laws that deal with karbonos that become disqualified, in Perik Beis, he says that even karbonos that you have to throw the blood, if you pour the blood, it's good, which is like Rabbi Shmuel. Zrika b'chlal shvicha, right? And yet the Rambam in Hilchas Chametz Matzah paskins that the bracha of Pesach does not exempt the bracha on Chagiga. And you have to make two separate brachas, which means now he's siding with Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara clearly puts the two together, and the Rambam, in his own halachas, chooses one and then chooses the opposite view. In Hilchas Psulei HaMukdash, he follows Rabbi Shmuel when it comes to Shvicha and Zrika. In Hilchas Chametz Matzah, he says two separate brachas, and one does not exempt the other. Because the Gemara says one depends on the other, right? Look at the Gemara. L'divrei Rabbi Shmuel Zrika b'chlal shvicha. L'divrei Rabbi Akiva lo shvicha b'chlal zrika v'lo b'chlal shvicha. So the Gemara understood that at mamish one depends on the other. If you hold this, you hold this. If you don't hold this, you don't hold this. And yet the Rambam, apparently, obviously, he learned the Gemara. So this is, as I told you, the Lechem Mishnah. The Lechem Mishnah asks this question, and he says, "V'zuhi kushya chazaka." This is a powerful question. V'tzarich iyun. That's how the Lechem Mishnah responds to this question. Lechem Mishnah is one of the commentators on the Rambam. So the Tzlach writes that Tzlach is the Tzion L'Nefesh Chaya, which was authored by Rabbi Cheskel Landau, the Noida Behuda. And on Maseches Pesachim, he says that Tosfos, this long Tosfos, he brings an interpretation of one of the Balei Tosfos known as Reb Chaim Kohen. And Reb Chaim Kohen, which Tosfos brings as an interpretation here in this Gemara, that Tzlach says probably the Rambam agrees with this interpretation, because that would make the Rambam, that would allow us to understand how the Rambam thought of it. And that is basically that the Rambam holds an explanation that's brought in Yerushalmi. And the Yerushalmi, in Pesachim, that's what Tosfos brings from Chaim Kohen. The Yerushalmi holds that the reason why Pesach paters Chagiga, the bracha, the reason for Rabbi Shmuel is, and actually he said it yesterday, I don't think he's here today, he said it yesterday, because it's called Iker and Tafel. In brachas, we have a concept called Iker and Tafel, a primary food and a subservient food. Yeah, let's give a simple example. It's pretty extreme, actually. I want to drink a little bit of schnapps in the morning for whatever reason. Let's say for good reasons. My doctor told me it's important for my heart. The problem is it's 96. You know what 96 is? 96% alcohol and 4% non-alcohol. You ever drank such this? Really? Okay. So not advisable. So I want it. Yeah, I want it. I love it. I enjoy it. But I know how sharp it is, and I don't want it to burn up the kishkas. So right after that, there's a piece of challah, a piece of bread. I eat the bread. Why am I eating the bread? Only to serve as a cover-up, as a cushion for the mashka. So the halach is you don't make a bracha on the bread. You don't make a bracha on the bread. Kol shu iker, right? Mavarech ala iker, a poiter es hatafel. Now you have to make sure it's tafel. If I'm eating the bread because I also like a little bit to eat bread, then of course I have to wash and make hamoitzi. But if I'm really eating it, which is why you have to be careful with iker and tafel, because, or a piece of cake. People sometimes, they take a schnapps, right? And then they eat a piece of cake just to sweeten it. So if I don't want the cake, I just want a cushion for the mashka, I'm not supposed to make a bracha on the cake. Why? Because the cake is not considered cake. It's considered an extension of the mashka. It's tafel, it's subservient. So you make a bracha on the ikar, and you put it on the tafel. That's the halach in Hilchas Brachas.
That a Jew's not supposed to drink by itself. If they're going to drink some alcohol, they should always have some zonos or something with it. It's like, I don't know if it's eating haka or just like...
That's why in Russia we were drinking the blood eating.
Okay.
That's the eating.
So you're saying that the bread, the cake is like a chaser for the liquor.
Yeah. So therefore, this is what Yerushalmi says. This is the reason of Rabbi Shmuel, that the chagiga is tafel to the Pesach. Why is it tafel to the Pesach? Because it's not an essential obligation. The whole reason it's brought is that you should eat the carbon Pesach when you're satiated. So what's the whole point of the chagiga? Just to serve as a catalyst that your carbon Pesach should be eaten when you're satiated. And that's why you only bring the chagiga when it's a weekday, when you're pure, and when you have a few people when you don't have enough of the carbon Pesach. You know, there's not an essential obligation to bring the chagiga. It's a hachana, it's a preparation for the carbon Pesach. And therefore, according to this, Rabbi Shmuel says, you make a bracha on the ikar and you point to the tefillah. So that's why the Pesach is point to the chagiga. Okay, good. One. Before we get there, good question. So the Tzlach says the Rambam probably follows this reasoning. And that's why the Rambam doesn't have a problem with saying that the Pesach is not part of the Chagig, because he agrees with Rabbi Akiva, and still saying that what's Zrika B'chlal Shvicha, because he doesn't believe, he follows the Yerushalmi, that the two arguments are not connected. The two arguments are not connected. The reason of Rabbi Shmuel is not because Zrika B'chlal Shvicha. The reason of Rabbi Shmuel is because the Ikir is part of the Tafel. That's the reason of Rabbi Shmuel. If he would take a hold, it's because Zrika B'chlal Shvicha, then he couldn't write what he writes. But he holds the reason of Rabbi Shmuel is because it's Ikir and Tafel, like the Yerushalmi. That's the answer that Tosfos brings to Reb Chaim Kohen. And therefore, it's not a contradiction. You can hold Zrika B'chlal Shvicha, and you can still hold that the Pesach is not part of the Zavach. That's what the Tzlach says in the Rambam.
It's not that really direct.
Right.
So
The Chagiga is a Tafel, you're saying.
it's not even a total. It's the opinion of what the majority of people have.
Okay.
The majority will have only Pesach.
Right.
That's why Rambam
Right.
is not a steer.
Right. The question now is, what would Rabbi Akiva say? Why would he disagree? Why would he say you make on the Pesach and it's not part of the Chagiga? So you might answer, like Rabbi Yaakov just said, the din of Iker and Tafel is only, right, if you're eating first the Iker. What if you eat first the Tafel? What if I eat the bread before the schnapps? I can't say I'm not making a bracha on the bread because later I'm going to drink schnapps. Doesn't work that way. If you eat the Tafel after the Iker, yeah? Or another example, you take bread and you put hummus on it. You take mezainas bread or hamaitzi bread, you put hummus on it. So if you're making hamaitzi, making hamaitzi. But let's say you take a cracker and you put hummus on it. You don't make a bracha shahakal on the hummus. Why? Because the hummus is subservient to the cracker. Yeah. What if I'm eating hummus before the cracker? Yeah. I don't say I don't make shahakal. You're eating bread before the schnapps. You have to make a bracha. Why? Because you're not allowed to eat before you make a bracha. Since the chagiga was eaten when? Before the carbon Pesach. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva says, the Pesach can't be part of the chagiga because the Pesach is going to be later. But then the question is the opposite. What would Rabbi Shmuel hold? Rabbi Shmuel, then why would he hold that the Pesach is part of the chagiga when you're eating the chagiga first? If you're eating the chagiga first, so let's say it's tafel, but you're eating the tafel first, you have to make a bracha on it.
Maybe the Pesach first and then Pesach.
Right, so then the shaila is, why would Rabbi Akiva disagree? So you say Rabbi Akiva disagrees because they ate the chagiga first. So why would Rabbi Shmuel disagree? But the truth is that there is a difference between birchas hanenin and birchas hamitzvahs. A bracha that you're making on food because of hana, here it's not a birchas hanenin, right? We're talking here birchas hamitzvahs. We're not making a bracha shahakal niya b'dvarei or boyer pri ha'etz. We're doing a bracha shekedishanu b'mitzvahs v'tzivanu lechel ha'pesach. The Ramah, when we say that you have to make a bracha on the tafel if you're eating it before the ikr, the point is, if I'm eating bread and then drinking schnapps, you can't say that my bracha in 10 minutes over schnapps should work for the bread. You're not allowed to eat without a bracha. You're eating bread now, you didn't make a bracha. Later, you're going to make a bracha. So that works by birchas hanen, and it's very true, because you're not allowed to have anah from olam haza without a bracha. So therefore, I have to make a bracha first. I got it. But by birchas hamitzvahs, you can't say this. I'm not allowed to eat bread without a bracha. I am going to make a bracha on schnapps. That's going to be later. But now you have to make a bracha on bread. It's tafel. Tough luck, but you're eating the tafel, so you have to make a bracha. But by birchas hamitzvahs, you can't say, oh, I'm not allowed to do it without a bracha. What do you mean not allowed to do it? God told you to do a mitzvah. You have to do it. You're not making a bracha in order to allow you to do the mitzvah. You have to do the mitzvah. You're making a bracha to prepare you for the mitzvah. The Chachamim said you should make a bracha before you do the mitzvah, but it's not like you're not allowed to do it without a bracha. You have to do it. The Torah said you do it. The Chachamim want you should make a bracha before, and the bracha should be before. So maybe you could say that here, even if you do the tafel before, you don't have to make a bracha on it. Why? Because when is the chagiga completed? Only when you eat the Pesach, because the whole purpose of chagiga is for the Pesach. So therefore the bracha later perhaps works even for earlier. So therefore the Bishmal would hold that even if you eat the chagiga before the Pesach, you don't have to make a bracha on the chagiga if you want to make a bracha on the Pesach. Perhaps. Because it's different, because it's a mitzvah. It's not a regular case of Brichas Hanenin. So why don't we make a shechiyanu by bir chametz? We do bir chametz. It's a mitzvah, comes once a year. We say because the shechiyanu of Yom Tif is going to work for the bir chametz also, right? In other words, because I'm doing bir chametz for Yom Tif, so the shechiyanu of bir chametz is exempt by the shechiyanu that I make kiddush. It's 24 hours later. It's fine. So the same thing you would say here, that Rabbi Shmuel holds that even though you make the bracha on Pesach later, it would already work for the zevach, because the zevach is a tafel, and the mitzvah of the chagig is finished with the Pesach. It's completed through the Pesach, because the whole purpose of it is the preparation. And yet, Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Rabbi Akiva still disagrees. Rabbi Akiva says that even in this case, you're never allowed to make a bracha on the chagiga for the Pesach on the chagiga. No difference whether you eat the Pesach first, you eat the Pesach second. It doesn't become tafel. And another interesting thing is that even Rabbi Shmuel holds that it's not like you have to pat the chagiga. If you made on the Pesach, you don't have to make on the chagiga. But if you want to make on the chagiga, lechatchila, gesund hate. By ikar and tafel, you're not supposed to make on the tafel. You're only supposed to make on the ikar. Here, Rabbi Shmuel also says you can make on the chagiga. He just says, if you made on the Pesach, you don't make another one on the chagiga, right? Or if you made on the Pesach before you ate the chagiga, you don't make another one on the chagiga. You're yotze. But even he holds that lechatchila you have to make 2 brachas. So it's not a regular case of ikar and tafel. One explanation is that ikar and tafel usually is dependent on the person's mind. Where I am. For me, it's ikar. For me, it's tafel. For me, this is the primary. For me, this is a subservient. If I want something only as a tafel, it really becomes tafel because it's all about my perspective. Because it's just what I think. For you, this bread is the primary food. For me, it's not. It's meaningless. I just want to eat it. I want to drink the schnapps. Mitzvahs, you could say, are different. Because mitzvahs, it's not about me. I'm mechuyev to do it, right? So how do you know what's an ikar, what's a tafel? How do you know what's an ikar, what's a tafel? If the Torah makes a tafel, it becomes tafel. But it's not a tafel be'etzem. In other words, the chagiga is tafel in the sense that you don't always bring it. You're not always makriv it. But Rabbi Akiva can hold, when you are makriv it, because it's a mitzvah, so you can't call it a tafel. Because this is what Hashem wants. This is what Hashem wants. And the mitzvah gives it an ultimate chshivus, an ultimate prominence. It doesn't really become tafel. It's a mitzvah, you have to do it. It's the Ratzon Hashem. Can you say that one Ratzon is tafel to the other Ratzon? There may be different conditions, when to do it, how to do it, but it's not that it's essentially subservient and it loses its significance. It has an objective divine value. That's why even according to Rabbi Shmuel, it could pater, but lechatchila you make 2 brachas. And according to Rabbi Akiva, you bechlal can't pater it. Okay, so that's the way of explaining the Rambam. No. Reb Chaim was one of the Bali Atoisvis. Yeah, later. He's just saying that his view, the Rambam would have this. Yeah. You could see the last lines of Toisvis. It's 1, 2, 3. It's like 6 lines from the bottom. You see? For Reb Chaim Kayin Pidish, Kshatim Tzeloimar Ledivri Rabbi Shmuel Zrika B'chlal Shricha B'chlal Zrika. Kachi Girsa B'Svarim Yeshenim. In the old Svarim, Kalaima Kola Karbonas B'Zrika B'Shvicha. Which means you could do all karbonas both. Ve'en lahakbid. Ubirchas Pesachim al ikar lifter es atafel v'loy atafel es ikar. Reb Chaim Kayin had a different girsa. He said that Rabbi Shmuel actually holds everything works, not like we learned here. His girsa is Shvicha works for Zrika, Zrika works for Shvicha. So why can't a Chagiga be pointed a Pesach and a Pesach? Yeah, he says because Pesach is Iker and it's pointed the Tafel and not the Tafel the Iker. Okay, so that was his gears of Chaim, and that's what Haket says in Yerushalmi. According to this, the Bavli in Yerushalmi would fit, and the Rambam could have believed like this, and he had a different gears in our Gemara, and therefore the Rambam has his own way of learning, and that's what we explained. Ikir and Tov for Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Yeah. The Lubavitcher Rebbe has a Hadron on Pesachim, and he shows that throughout the whole Shas, Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva have many arguments that are similar to this pattern, where Rabbi Shmuel looks at every mitzvah from the perspective, many mitzvahs from the perspective of the human being, and Rabbi Akiva looks at it from the perspective of Hashem. So it's very interesting. And a lot of, for example, Rabbi Shmuel holds Dibra Torah Kalashim B'nai Adam. Torah speaks in the language of man. Rabbi Akiva says Loi Dibra Torah Kalashim B'nai Adam. For example, if there's a redundancy in a pasuk, Rabbi Shmuel says, oh, that's how people speak. They repeat themselves twice. So God does that too. Rabbi Akiva says, absolutely not. Torah does not speak in the language of man. Yeah. The Gemara says in the beginning of Saita that there's a thought, it's rejected. It's fascinating. That Rabbi Shmuel holds that all the mitzvahs are voluntary. Whenever it says in Torah you should do something, it's just a suggestion. If you want, you can do it. Cited of Gimel. Rabbi Shmuel holds that every mitzvah is voluntary. Because the Gemara brings 3 mitzvahs that Rabbi Shmuel says are voluntary, Rabbi Akiva says it's an obligation. Lo yitama. Does a kohen have to become tamei for a sister, for a brother, for a father, for a mother? Rabbi Shmuel says voluntary, Rabbi Akiva says obligation. So the Gemara says maybe Rabbi Shmuel holds that all the mitzvahs are voluntary. What's the difference of voluntary obligation? In terms of a person, when you do something voluntarily, you're more involved because it's your choice, right? An obligation means basically you're subservient to God. So Iker and Tafel too. Rabbi Shmuel looks at it from the human experience. From the human experience, Chagigah is Tafel to Pesach because it's subservient. Its whole purpose is Pesach. But from the divine perspective, the Medrash says, Al tiyoshev v'shekel mitzvah shel Torah. Don't decide which mitzvah is more important, which mitzvah is less important. If it's God's will, it has ultimate objective value. The Tafel is just because Hashem wants it should be like this. But it's not be'etzem Tafel. It's not about your perception, it's about the divine. So this is a machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva throughout the whole Shas, why Chagiga would not be a Tafel according to Rabbi Akiva, and why according to Rabbi Shmuel it would be a Tafel.
So,
Rabbi Aaron, you fine? Huh? Because no, Rabbi Chaim Kohen had a different girsa in the Bavli.
what I'm saying, when the Rambam says something in one place and something...
Oh no, you won't say that, because he reviewed his Sefer a few times, so he went back. He would have changed it. He can't contradict himself like this. The Rambam had a bird's eye view of halacha, so it's not like when he wrote Hilchas Chametz Matzah, he forgot. You can't work like that. We have today Google, but they had Google here.
So would Rabbi Shmuel...
Better than Google.
Would Rabbi Shmuel or Rabbi Akiva say not?
No, Rabbi Akiva says this free will in Pirkei Avos, Hakol Tzafoi for Reshus Nesuna. But the question is for Rabbi Akiva, Yiddishkeit ultimately, whenever there's a choice, he will always look at it from the godly perspective. And Rabbi Shmuel more from the human perspective. Okay, let's see the next piece. Or to put it this way, Yiddishkeit is a relationship between Hashem and the Jew. In every relationship, right, whenever you look at a marriage, at a family, you could see the imprint of the husband, you could see the imprint of the wife. So in Judaism, you could see the imprint of the divine and the imprint of humanity. That's the beauty of it. The question is, in those cases that are not clear, which one do you accentuate? Which one do you choose? Which one is the focus? Which one is the primary component?
Everything that the Chaim said was absolutely true. So.
Elu ve'elu, elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim, of course. There's always a truth to this and a truth to this. It's not... So the Gemara now continues with the final story of Maseches Pesachim, Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. The big question, of course, is how this comes in right here. We had a Mishnah about making a bracha on Pesach, Chagiga, but the Gemara now tells a story. Reb Simloi ikla Pidyon Haben. Reb Simloi came to a Pidyon Haben. You see, this works with our first share in the morning. Kadesh li kol b'chor. Every first male born has to be redeemed from the kohen. And Reb Simloi came to a ceremony of Pidyon Haben. Listen what happened. Bo'omine, they asked from him a question. What's the question? Pshita, it's obvious that al Pidyon Haben, asher kedeshanu mitzvayis v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben, avi Haben mevarich. It's obvious that on a Pidyon Haben, the bracha, asher kedeshanu mitzvayis v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben, who makes the bracha? The father of the son. Not a question. That's obvious. That this is what they're telling Rabbi Simlai at the Pidyon Haben. It's obvious that when it comes to Pidyon Haben, the bracha asher kedeshanu mitzvayis v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben is made by the father. Why is it obvious? Because he has the mitzvah. He has the mitzvah. I'm a father. I have a son. I have to redeem him from the kohen. So I make a bracha. Like every mitzvah, you make a bracha. Granted. The question is, Baruch Shechianu v'kimonu v'yonu lizman hazeh, kohen mevarech, oyavi Haben mevarech. What about the blessing of Shechianu? The blessing of Shechianu is made not by every mitzvah. When I put on tefillin, I don't make Shechianu, because Shechianu is done on a mitzvah that happens mizman lizman, right? The night of Yom Kippur, you make a Shechianu. You blow shofar, you make a Shechianu. The first night of Chanukah, you make a Shechianu. So there's a Shechianu by Pidyon Haben, but who makes the bracha? Kohen mevarich, oyavi Haben mevarich. The kohen who's receiving the money, or the father? What's the question? Kohen mevarich de kamati hanal liyadeh. Maybe the kohen makes the bracha because the benefit, the enjoyment comes to his hand. The kohen is receiving 5 silver slayim from the father. That's a great hana. That's a great financial hana benefit. There's a hana. And it's hana also with a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. It's not just you giving him 5 slayim, right? I'm just adding that because it's not every time that a person gets money that you make a shechianu. But the point is, it's hana that's coming with a mitzvah for the father, with a mitzvah of the kohen also. The kohen is part of the mitzvah. And in fact, it's one of the matnos kohuna Pidyon Haben. Oyavi Haben mevarich. Or maybe the father of the child should make the bracha. The kavod mitzvah. He's doing the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben. That's his mitzvah. Loi have biyodeh. Rabbi Simlai did not know the answer. He did not have in his hand the response. So he's at a Pidyon Haben, and they don't know who makes shechianu. They know who makes the first bracha, but they don't know who makes shechianu. Shoyel bei medrasha. So Simlai goes to the Beis Medrash, and he asks the question. Amrulei, they tell him, Avi Haben mevarich shtayim. The father of the son of the child makes both blessings, al Pidyon Haben and shechianu. And the Gemara says, v'hilchase, that's taka the halacha. The halacha is that Avi Haben mevarich shtayim, that the father of the child makes both blessings. The blessing of al Pidyon Haben and shechianu, in other words, what they told Reb Simlai in the Beis Medrash is taka the halacha. That's the story. So the Rambam says, Reb Simlai ikla, mishum da'aydi masnisim b'shnei minei brachas. How does this come in here? Who's talking about Pidyon Haben? We're talking about making a bracha on the Karban Pesach. He says, because we spoke about 2 types of brachas, ba'adam echad u'maisa echad atoli zebazeh, going Pesach v'zevach, shechach yigabayim ha'Pesach. We're talking about 2 brachas made by one person, connected with one action that is dependent on another action, like a Pesach and a Chagiga. The Chagiga comes with the Pesach. So we want to know if you make 1 bracha or you make 2 brachas, or could you make 1 bracha or you have to make 2. So Misham Hachi Nakat Nami Lahai Uvda Davi Haben mevarich shtayim. So that's how the Gemara came into this story, that the father of the son has to make both brachas. He doesn't only make 1 bracha, he makes both brachas, just like Rabbi Akiva holds. They have to make both brachas on the Pesach and the Zevach. Here there's also 2 brachas, Pidyon Haben and shechianu. Do you make 1 bracha? Do you make 2 brachas? Here you don't patter 1 bracha, the kohen will make it, or I have to make both brachas as a father. That's how the Rambam sees the connection. Now, if you look at the story, there's a few very interesting, intriguing things about the story. Okay. Number 1, the connection of the Rambam is a little bit of a difficult connection. It's like, because we're talking about a bracha of Pesach and Zevach, is it exempt, not exempt? So therefore the Gemara reminded itself that by a Pidyon Haben there's a question of who makes the second bracha. It seems like a very difficult connection. It becomes even more strange. I'll tell you why. The Rif and the Rosh, Rabbi Yitzchak Alfasi and the Rosh, what they do is, they're always in the back of the Gemara. They don't quote the whole Gemara. They take out all the halachas of the Gemara. Because they're like the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch. They're not Shulchan Aruch, but they're the beginning, the first halachic connection, right? But what they did was something very, very special. They took out the halachas of every Masechta and they put it where it belongs. In other words, sometimes you have a halacha, right, a Masechtas Shabbos that belongs to another Masechta, so they'll take it out from there and put it in that Masechta. The Rif and the Rosh, you would think this halacha they would take out from here and put it in Masechta B'chayris, which deals with the halachas of Pidyon Haben, Pidyon B'chayr. But they keep it in Masechta Pesachim. That means they felt that it's actually connected to Pesach. Now the Tzlach asks a very interesting question. And the Tzlach asks the following question, a fascinating question, and it teaches you how to read a story in Gemara. Reb Simlai is at a Pidyon Haben. The bracha al Pidyon Haben, what do they say? Pshita. We know what to do. We have a question about Shechiyanu. He says, if it's Pshita, why are they telling it to him? They should just say, what do we do with Shechiyanu? Why are they giving an introduction? Imagine I come to a Pidyon Haben, yeah? And you have a question, yeah? Are you going to come to me and say, Rabbi, it's pashut that on the coffee we make shahakal. My question is, how much money I give the kohen? Fine. If it's pashut, it's pashut. Why are they giving this introduction? Pshita, what, you want to show off your knowledge? Even more than that. If they're asking Reb Simlai the question, it means they think he knows how to learn much better than them. That's why they're asking him a question. If he knows how to learn much better than you, so if it's pashut by you, it's pashut by him. And it's a case of Meira halacha b'fnei Rabbi. You're not supposed to tell a halacha in front of your Rebbe. If Reb Simlai is going to be your teacher and you know that he knows how to learn, why are you telling him things that are simple? It's not even so respectful. Just say, Reb Simlai, who makes Shechiyanu? They do a pshita. That's what the Tzlach asks. So the Tzlach has a brilliant vart, and his vart is that it has to do with the bracha. You see, they quote the whole bracha. Pshita al Pidyon Haben al Pidyon Haben. You don't say livdois haben. You say al Pidyon Haben. Al Pidyon Haben. What's the difference? Some brachas we learned before in Daf Zayin, you say lamed, right? Like lahaniach tefillin. And sometimes you say al. What's the difference between lamed and al? So the Tzlach says that's what they were saying. That the bracha is not livdois haben. The bracha is al Pidyon Haben. And the Tzlach says as follows. The reason you say al, it says in the Rishonim we learned before, the Rivah, the Rosh, is when you could do it through a shliach. When you don't have to do it yourself, you can do it through a shliach, you say al. Because the mitzvah is not on me to do it, the mitzvah is it should happen. You can also do it for me. Pidyon Haben you could do through a shliach. That's what the Tzlach says. That's what they said, al Pidyon Haben. If that's the case, who should make Shechiyanu? He says, I'll tell you why. If the father appoints a shliach to do it for him, that shliach can't make a Shechiyanu. Because the shliach doesn't have that simcha, because he's just a shliach for somebody else. So that means if the father has to make a shechiyanu, sometimes a shechiyanu won't be made. Because he says al. Al means you could use a shliach. If you use a shliach, it means sometimes shechiyanu won't be made. So better the kohen to make it, because the kohen is always there. There's no Pidyon Haben without a kohen. That was their shaila. The al is the introduction to their question. Because if you could use a shliach, it means that the father won't always be there. Father won't always be there. There won't always be a shechiyanu. So better give it to the kohen, because he's always having the hana. Let him do it. That was the pshita. You can't happen to have a Pidyon Haben without doing it. You can't have a Pidyon Haben without the father, not without the kohen. You need a shliach, but the father or a shliach. Even Bezdin could be a shliach. Anybody could be a shliach. The father just needs a messenger to do it. That's yeah. Yeah, she could be a shliach. Yeah. There is a halacha if the father doesn't do it. It happens today a lot. Father doesn't do it. So then when the boy grows up, you have to do it. Padai tivda. The Gemara learns padai tivda twice, that if your father didn't do it for you, you have to do it. The Vilna Gaon was a b'chayr. He used to walk around with 5 slayim. Whenever he met a kohen, he did Pidyon Haben for himself. No, without a Shema Malchus. Baruch Hashem al Pidyon Haben. Why? Because just in case the Kohen, how do you know he comes from Aaron? Maybe he's not a real Kohen. Maybe he decided, people decided that they're Kohenim at some point. Sometimes it was good for Shidduchim. Sometimes at the boat they said, oh, Kohen! Yeah, Kohen, shine, Kohen. As it was a Kohen, yeah. So the Vilna Gaon used to always redeem himself. But that's only if your father didn't do it. Maybe he didn't have the money, or maybe he didn't know, or maybe he was not a very engaged Jew. It's just like a bris, right? The father does the bris, but if the father didn't do it, a lot of Russian Jews and other Jews who have had bris later in life, it's not so simple. Pidyon Haben is a little easier than a bris for obvious reasons. So the point here is, this is the first vart of the tzlach. Then the tzlach gives a second opportunity, and he says, al means that the mitzvah is not done through the father himself. He needs the kohen to help him do the mitzvah. I can't do the mitzvah myself as a father. That's why it's not li, it's al. Al means I need the participation of others. It's not a mitzvah on me to do it because I need the kohen. If a kohen says, I'm not interested in the mitzvah, I can't do the mitzvah. There's a partnership in the mitzvah. That's why there's no li, there's al. That's why they had a suffix who makes shechiyanu. Since both of them are doing the mitzvah, but the kohen is the only one getting the money, so it makes sense, he should make the shechiyanu. That's the two ways that Tzlach explains the Gemara. That it's the al that makes the question. If you would say le, I wouldn't have a question, because it's all the father. The father can't make a shliach, and therefore he'll always make shechiyanu, and the father is the one who has the mitzvah. But since it says al means A, you can make a shliach. So that means sometimes if the father is not there, there won't be a shechiyanu, so better the kohen should make it, because he's always there. B, al means that I can't do it myself, I need you also, so the kohen is also part of the mitzvah. Plus he gets the money, so maybe he should make shechiyanu. That's the tzlach's explanation in the Gemara. So based on the pshita, they have a question. They couldn't ignore. We asked, what are they saying? Pshita. If it's pshita, don't say it. Get to the point. You don't say, Reb Simloi, it's pshita that the air condition should be on. I mean, it's pshita that on the coffee you make shahakal. Okay, if it's pashut for you, it's also pashut for him. You don't have to teach it to him. Just ask him your question. When you read a story in Gemara, you have to be sensitive to these types of things. Yeah, the father was there. It's just they asked because it's possible the father won't be there, so maybe never have him do shechiyanu, because that way the shechiyanu is always secured. Because if the father appoints a shlich, he doesn't make a shechiyanu, because it's not his simcha. Shechiyanu is the simcha of the mitzvah the father does. Yeah. In other words, as an introduction to the next piece.
So why the halacha at the end says that
good. The problem with the tzlach's answer is, and by the way, the Chaim Sofer gives a similar answer, is you see at the end that the Gemara keeps on going back to shtayim, which is superfluous. We already dealt with the first bracha. He came to the Beis Medrash, they should have told him, Avi haben mevarech shechiyanu. Nobody asked about Pidyon Haben. We know Pidyon Haben. And v'hilchasa Avi haben mevarech shtayim. The Gemara keeps on going back to that first bracha. Very good. It should have said mevarich shechiyanu. That's the question. Why mevarich shtayim? We never had a problem on Pidyon Haben. V'hilchasa avi haben mevarich shechiyanu. Reb Simloi comes into the Beis Medrash. He asked about shechiyanu. They should have answered about shechiyanu. Why are they saying shtayim? But there's also a bigger problem with the tzlach. Another problem with the tzlach. Challenge. And that is, when you read the language of the Gemara, you see that's not the case. Look at the pshita. The pshita is, pshita al Pidyon Haben. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvayis v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben, avi haben mevarech. According to the tzlach, what should have it said? It's pshita that the avi haben makes al Pidyon Haben. The focus is the text of the bracha, not who makes it. So the grammar should have been pshita that when it comes to Pidyon Haben, the father makes al Pidyon Haben. By shechiyanu, the question is who makes shechiyanu. But what does the Gemara say? It's pshita that the bracha al Pidyon Haben, the father makes. In other words, what's the focus? The father making it, not the text of the bracha. That's the focus. Because think in English when you make a sentence, yeah? Where do you put the punchline? What's your punchline here? It's anticlimactic. The tzlach is saying the pshita is that the bracha is al pidyon haben. Not who makes it. Because who makes it, that we don't need. That's pshita. Exactly. Is the avi haben. Avi haben mevarech. Who makes the bracha? Not pshita. Avi haben mevarech. Pidyon haben. Yeah. Also, A, B, the contrast. First they say it's pshita that the father makes al pidyon haben. The question is, shechiyanu, who makes it? It seems like it's a parallel contrast. It's pshita that the pidyon haben he makes. The question is, who makes shechiyanu? That's the question. According to the tzlach, that's not the issue. It's not a parallel question. But the main thing is the nusach. You see the nusach. It should have said, pshita avi haben mevorech asher tzanu hezvano al pidyon haben. Not pshita al pidyon haben, right? Mevorech al pidyon haben asher tzanu hezvano al pidyon haben avi haben mevorech. It seems like the Gemara is not talking about the text. The Gemara is talking about who makes the bracha. It's obvious the father makes the bracha, but the question is, what were they trying to say? According to the tzlach, they weren't trying to say that the father makes the bracha, because that's pshita. They're trying to say that the text is al, not li, and that's why they have a question. The biggest proof is you open up the Rosh. The Rosh quotes the Gemara lahalacha. What's his words? I quote the Rosh's words. Al pidyon haben vaday ha'av mevarech. He doesn't even give the nusach. He skips that whole nusach. He goes, Al pidyon haben, vaday avi haben mevarech. In other words, what they were saying is it's obvious that it's the father. The question is, shechiyanu, who does it? Not that they were focusing on the text of the bracha. Al pidyon haben, vaday av mevarech. When it comes to pidyon haben, that bracha, now you could say he says Al pidyon haben. He puts in Al pidyon haben. But he says, Al pidyon haben, vaday av mevarech, without the whole Asher Kedeshanu Monsey V'tzivanu, Al pidyon haben. The last question, I'm not going to do the answer today, but the last question is, according to the tzlach, it's very, very clumsy, the words. It could have said, Bomine, they said like this. Kivan Al pidyon haben mevarech, Asher Kedeshanu Monsey V'tzivanu, Al pidyon haben. So, Baruch Shechiyanu, Koyin mevarech, Haben mevarech. What's this pshita? It's simple that on Pidyon haben, the bracha, Pidyon haben, the father makes. It could have just said very straight. Bomine, they asked the question. Since, by a Pidyon haben, he makes the bracha al Pidyon haben, so the question is, who makes Shechiyanu? Instead of this whole cumbersome language and text. Yeah, according to the tzlach, say it right. It's a very gewaldige chap of the tzlach that it's the al, it's not the lid. That was the question, but it's a little difficult in the text. So, if you'll turn to Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, I want to explore with you a little deeper the story that we learned last time, the story of Reb Simlai. It looks like a very short and nice and geschmack story. But when you delve into the story, there's really a lot here. Let's remember what the Gemara said about the story. What happened? The Gemara said, Reb Simlai came to a Pidyon haben. At the Pidyon haben, they asked him a question. What was the question? They said like this. It's pshita, it's pashut, that for a Pidyon haben, the bracha, Shekadeshanu Mitzvah V'tzivanu al Pidyon haben, the father of the son makes. That's pashut. When it comes to Pidyon haben, the bracha, Shekadeshanu Mitzvah V'tzivanu al Pidyon haben, the father makes. The question is, what about the bracha Shechiyanu? Who makes it? The kohen or the father? Does the Kohen make it because he gets the benefit? He gets the money. He has hana, matu hana liyadeh. So he makes the blessing, shechiyanu. Shechiyanu is a blessing that you make because of a simcha, because you're in a state of joy. So therefore, the Kohen, by Pidyon Haben, he should make the shechiyanu, because he gets the cash. He gets the silver, I should say, not the cash, the silver. Or maybe the father should make shechiyanu, because he's doing the mitzvah. Kavod mitzvah, he's doing the mitzvah. And because he's doing the mitzvah, and it's not a regular mitzvah, it's not a mitzvah that you do every day. Mitzvah Pidyon Haben you do once a life. Because your second son, you can't do the mitzvah anymore. This is a mitzvah you do once a lifetime, and you can't even do it once a lifetime always. If you have a first daughter, you can't do Pidyon Haben. Right? Or if you're a Levi, a Kohen, you don't do Pidyon Haben. So it's a unique mitzvah. So it's unique. And therefore, he should make shechiyanu. So the Gemara says, he didn't know what to say. He didn't know the answer. So he went and he asked him the Beis Medrash, and they told him that the father makes both blessings. Avi haben mevarich shtayim. The blessing al Pidyon Haben and the blessing shechiyanu. Yeah. The first shear and the second shear are matching. Not only that, but also in the details. We'll soon see. He left the Pidyon Haben, it says. He says, Asa, he came. Shul by Medrash, he asked in the Beis Medrash. He went to the yeshiva, where they were learning, where the great Talmidei Chachamim were, and he asked, what do we do? He didn't know the answer.
What was his stature? He must have been a very great person.
Obviously, yeah, Reb Simlai is one of the greatest of the Amirayim. He's called Rebbe Simlai. That's why they asked him the question, but he didn't know. As the Ben Yehoyada points out, here you see how a Talmid Chacham functions. He doesn't know, yeah? He himself went to the Beis Medrash, and he said, I want to find out. He didn't send a shliach. He went himself.
How is it making? You have to find someone who's greater than him? That's the general consensus.
Maybe somebody who was greater than him, or the general consensus, or, Dibuk Chavedim, they can debate it. Maybe somebody had a tradition. The collective always has the power. Or just the creativity of the collective, working it through. And they told him that the father makes both blessings. And the Gemara concludes the story. That's the end of the story. The Gemara concludes that the halacha is Avi haben mevarich shtayim. That's the halacha. The father of the son makes shtayim, meaning he makes both blessings. The blessing of al Pidyon Haben and the blessing of shechiyanu. Right? That's the Gemara. So we brought the question of the tzlach, Rabbi Cheskel Landau, the Noida Behuda, the Tzil and Nefesh Chaim, who asks a gewaldige kasha. The kasha is, why the introduction pshita? If the first bracha, they knew who makes it, and it was obvious, so why introduce it? To give a simple mashal. If you come over to me at a meal, and you point to a certain food, and you say, Rabbi Jacobson, what's the bracha for this food? You're not going to start. It's pshita that on the challah we make hamoitzi. But I don't know what do we make on this. If it's pshita, so don't say it. You can't say that they thought it was pshita by them and not by him, because if they're asking Reb Simlai which bracha to make, who should make shechiyanu, obviously they believe that he knows how to learn better than they do. That's why they're coming to him and saying, what should we do on shechiyanu? So if it's the first bracha is pshita by them, for sure it's pshita by him. If they know, for sure he knows. They're trying to come to him to ask him for shechiyanu. Certainly he knows what to make for the first bracha. In fact, saying pshita is even a type of meira halacha b'fnei Rabbi. Don't start teaching your Rebbe the obvious halachas that he certainly knows because you know them, so certainly he knows them. So they should have gotten Bowmine. They asked him, who makes shechiyanu by Pidyon Haben? That's the question of the tzlach. So I told you the answer of the tzlach is, very original answer, that the question The pshita is part of the question. Why is it part of the question? Because they quote the whole blessing. Pshita, on Pidyon Haben, Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvayse b'tzivanu, al Pidyon Haben the father makes. They're not trying to say the father makes it. That's pshita. They're trying to bring in what he makes. There's two ways of making a bracha, lamed or al. You can say Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvayse b'tzivanu livdois haben, or Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvayse b'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben. Just like with many brachas, right? When you put on tefillin shel yad, you say lehaniach tefillin. Tefillin shel rosh, you say al mitzvahs tefillin. Bir chametz, you say al bir chametz. Lulav, you say al natilas lulav. Lighting Chanukah candles, you say lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. Shofar, you say lishmaya kol shofar, not al shmiyas kol shofar. Every bracha has its unique genre how you say it. Says the tzlach. The text is al Pidyon Haben. That's why they have a question. Because that's the pshit. Because it's obvious that the father makes the bracha. And what's the bracha? Al Pidyon Haben, not livdois haben. Therefore, we have a question about shechiyanu. What's the connection? So the tzlach says two different ideas. One idea is al. We have a klal. The Rosh brings early on Daf Zayin from the Rivah that any mitzvah you can do through a shliach, you say al. Any mitzvah that you have to do yourself, you say li. If you could do it through a shliach, you say al. Because the mitzvah is not just on you, the mitzvah is, you can do it also through somebody else. And Pidyon Haben is one of those mitzvahs that you could do through a shliach. The father can do it through a shliach, and therefore you say al Pidyon Haben, not li. So therefore, if you can do it through a shliach, it means that sometimes the father won't be there, because he could send a shliach. And if he won't be there, then if the shechiyanu falls on him, sometimes the shechiyanu won't be made. Because if you're doing a mitzvah as a shliach for somebody else, you don't make a shechiyanu. Because shechiyanu is the joy that comes from the mitzvah. You're only a shliach, you're doing it for somebody else. So the bracha you make, but you don't make the shechiyanu because you don't have that simcha. And therefore, the father, if the father is not there, and he's the one who makes shechiyanu, so sometimes the shechiyanu won't be made. So therefore, maybe the kohen should do it, because the kohen is always there, because you can't have Pidyon Haben without a kohen. The second svara that tzlach says is that since it says al Pidyon Haben means not livdois haben, al. So what's the al? So the tzlach says a second svara, and the second svara is that the mitzvah is not just done through the father. The mitzvah needs a partnership with the kohen. I can't do the mitzvah on my own if I'm a father. I need the kohen. That's why it's not a sheker d'shalom toisav v'tzivon to live dois, because it's not like you just have, go do it. It's al Pidyon Haben, which represents there's more than one person that's necessary in order to get this done. You must have the kohen. So therefore, since both of them do the mitzvah, it's not just me, I need you for the mitzvah as well. But you also have hana. So maybe you should be the one making shechiyanu. Because I'm doing the mitzvah, taka, it's my mitzvah, but I don't have hana from it. You're part of the mitzvah and you're having hana. So that's why you should make shechiyanu. So the tzlach says, that's why the Gemara, that's why they said pshita. They said pshita because they wanted to put in the text of al Pidyon Haben, because that sets the stage for the second question of shechiyanu. So they can't just start off, who makes shechiyanu? The kohen or the father? That's not a question. Of course the father makes shechiyanu. It says mitzvah. Once we said that the bracha is al, that means the kohen is part of it, that means there could be a shliach. Now there's a good question, who makes shechiyanu? Even though the answer is taka that the father makes shechiyanu.
So both answers of the slach is the kohen should make the shechiyanu?
No. The answers of the tzlach explain, the tzlach says that they introduced the pshita in order to frame the question. Why would there be a logic for the kohen to make it? Right? Why would there be logic for a kohen to make it? The answer is, number one, because since you could do it through a shliach, so sometimes the father won't be there. If the father won't be there won't be a shechiyanu at all. If you give the shechiyanu to the father and the father is not there won't be a shechiyanu. Give it to the kohen and there'll always be a shechiyanu. That's the first thing. Or the second svara that I explained, because the kohen is a partner in the mitzvah. The challenge with this tzlach, as we said, is it's a very geschmack of art, but there's a few problems. The biggest problem is the text of the Gemara. It's anticlimactic, right? When you read the Gemara says, Pshita, the brach al Pidyon Haben, the father makes. That's the highlight. According to that, that's not the highlight. It should have said, Pshita, by Pidyon Haben, the father makes a bracha al Pidyon Haben. That's your point. Your point is not that the father makes the bracha. As we said, that's Parshas. The Chiddush is the text, al Pidyon Haben. So that's how the Gemara should have said it. Number two, the contrast of the two questions seems like the question is who makes it. Like Pshita, here the father makes it. Here the question is who makes Shechiyanu. According to the tzlach, they're not parallel to each other. Number three, he could have just said it simply. Not Pshita. Since the bracha is al Pidyon Haben, so therefore we ask by Shechiyanu. That's what he could have said. It would have been much simpler. Since the bracha is Pidyon Haben, Kiva, and then al Pidyon Haben, you say al Pidyon Haben. So the question is, who makes Shechiyanu? Not Pshita. On Pidyon Haben, al Pidyon Haben, the father, it's much more clumsy and very encumbered language. You can't ask the second question because you want to say the nusach of the bracha. Right? You want to say that the nusach of the bracha is al Pidyon Haben. But he could have said, since by Pidyon Haben, you make a bracha al Pidyon Haben, or you can even say, since by Pidyon Haben, the father makes a bracha al Pidyon Haben. So the question is by Shechiyanu. But do you see what's the language of the Gemara? Very different. Pshita, that by Pidyon Haben, the bracha is made by the father. Now the question is, who should make Shechiyanu? Even more so, as I mentioned, when you look in the language of the Rosh, who quotes this Gemara lahalacha, the way he quotes the Gemara is, he says, Al Pidyon Haben vaday ha'av mevarech. He takes away the whole text of the blessing. He deletes the whole text because it's not so relevant here. You see clearly how he's learning the Gemara. On Pidyon Haben, for sure the father makes the bracha. He starts off Al Pidyon Haben, which he could also be including the text of the blessing. Al Pidyon Haben, but he gets to the point. Al Pidyon Haben, for sure the father makes. Vaday ha'av mevarech. Now the question is, who makes Shechiyanu? If it's Vaday, so you don't have to say it. I'm saying, imagine you come over at a wedding to somebody and you say, it's pshita that on the water you make shahakal. But what do you make on the rice? If it's pshita, so don't say it. Especially he's your Rebbe. He knows what's pshita by you. If it's pshita by you, it's pshita by him. So we're back to that question. There's a sefer called Shal Sechuvas Chut HaMeshulish. Chut HaMeshulish. It's a very interesting sefer. It includes questions and answers by three people. Reb Chaim Volozhiner, his son-in-law, his name was Reb Hillel, and his son-in-law, and a grandson, whose name was Reb Eliezer Yitzchak Fried. Reb Chaim Volozhiner was considered the great student, one of the greatest students of the Vilna Gaon. And he founded a yeshiva in Volozhin. Volozhin is a city in Lithuania. And he founded the yeshiva in Volozhin. He was also the rabbi of Volozhin. When he passed away, his son took it over, Reb Itzela Volozhiner, Reb Yitzchak Volozhiner. Reb Itzela, that was his son, he took over. And when he passed away, his son-in-law took over the yeshiva. His name was Reb Eliezer Yitzchak Fried. This was a grandson of Reb Chaim Volozhiner through his wife. His wife was a daughter of Reb Itzela Volozhiner, who was the son of Reb Chaim Volozhiner. He also had a son-in-law, his name was Reb Hillel, and he was a big Rav. So they published a sefer, a great-grandson published a sefer in Vilna called Chut HaMeshulish, which means the triple thread, Shal Sechuvas Chut HaMeshulish, which has tshuvas of Reb Chaim Volozhiner, and his son-in-law, and his grandson. So I saw over there was a hadron on Pesachim. And he's mechadish over there, just to tell you how far this goes, okay? A chiddush, gewaldige chiddush in the story. Gewaldige chiddush in the story. I'll quote you what he says. Quite fascinating, but again, very difficult to put it into the Gemara. He says as follows. The story of Reb Simlai was a unique story. What happened? The father did not do a Pidyon Haben. He did not do a Pidyon Haben. In this story, this Sefer Chut HaMashulas is suggesting a Chiddush. In this story, the father did not do a Pidyon Haben. The child passed away. The baby, what's the halacha? The halacha is that the father still has to do a Pidyon Haben. Why? Because Pidyon Haben is not just you should be able to take the baby home. Pidyon Haben is a mitzvah that you have to redeem the child. Kaddish li kol b'chor. Peta kol rechem, you have to redeem the child. So the halacha is, in Masechta B'chayros, there's a Mishnah, that if a child passes away after 30 days, even though he did not do a Pidyon Haben, he should now do a Pidyon Haben. The father gives the kohen 5 slayim to redeem his son, even though the son passed away already. Rachmana litzlan. That's what's a Mishnah in Masechta B'chayros, Daf Mem Tes. So Tosfos asks a question over there. Tosfos, yesh lehistapik. I have a question. Does the father still make a shechiyanu? That he makes a bracha al Pidyon Haben is not a question. But does he also make a shechiyanu? Why should he make a shechiyanu? Because zoiche lekayim a mitzvah. It's a schus to do a mitzvah. It's a big schus. It's a schus for the father, it's a schus for the son also. Son also wants the mitzvah. That's what Tosfos says, yesh lehistapik. After the P'tira, yeah. Fascinating Tosfos. So in Shal Sechuvas, Chotam Shulish, the grandson of Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, Rabbi Eliezer Yitzchak Fried says, in his Hadnam Pesachim, he says, the question of Tosfos is according to the halacha. The halacha is that the father has to make both blessings, al Pidyon Haben and shechiyanu. So Tosfos asks, in this case, does the father make the second blessing shechiyanu or not? And we can understand both sides. The side to make it is because he's doing a mitzvah. And it's a schus to do a mitzvah. It's a great simcha to do a mitzvah. For him and for his son. The side not to make it, we can also understand. Because it's bittersweet. It's a very tragic situation. He's redeeming a child who's gone, who passed away already. So there's a certain grief in the mitzvah. He's redeeming his son. There's always a grief because he lost his son, but especially now. He's doing the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben without a baby. You know, the main mechutin at the simcha is not there. He's been buried already, obviously. He passed away. So he has to do the mitzvah, but it's not a shechiyanu. Tosfos says, yesh lehistapik, a suffix. That's according to the conclusion that the father is the one who makes both brachas. So the question is, does the father make the second bracha? Says the Volozhin, the Rosh Hashiva Volozhin, what happens if the conclusion here in the Gemara would be that the kohen makes the bracha? That the kohen makes shechiyanu. Why? Because he gets the hana. Would Tosfos have a suffix? Tosfos have a suffix. The kohen is getting the money. Okay, we're not talking that he's enjoying the fact. Obviously, the kohen is a men. Let's hope that the kohen is a men chose. He's not only a kohen. But it's a different level, of course. Huh? He got the money. He got the hana. Obviously, there's a certain element of empathy every Jew has for another Jew. But just like if a person builds a new house, they make a shechiyanu. A person buys new kelim, they make a shechiyanu. Even if that day something chas v'shalom happens to somebody else, that's true, but life moves on, right? You just give it to the kohen. That you give to the kohen. Yeah. Because when you have a b'char behema, it's basically, you're not redeeming it from the kohen. You give it to the kohen, and the kohen does with it whatever he can do. If it's a balmum, he shechts it and eats it. If it's a tamim, he brings it to the Beis HaMikdash and brings it as a carbon. If it's dead, right, it's died, but it belongs to the kohen. He could sell it to a guy. Right. The only pidyon by a behemoth is petach hamor. Right, the donkey which you exchange with a sheep. You exchange with a sheep. So this is unique by a child. You don't give your child away to the kohen. Yeah. Nobody ever said by a pidyon ben, you know what, keep it, I'm going to keep the money, you keep the child. There's a mitzvah to be paid to the ben. So the Volozhner Rosh Yeshiva says, if the kohen would be the one to make shechiyanu, then he would make shechiyanu even in such a case. Tosfos wouldn't have a suffix. So he says that that's the story here. That's what happened. It wasn't a regular pidyon ben. It was a pidyon ben where Rachmana litzlan, the child, wasn't there. So they said, who should make shechiyanu? The father should make or the kohen should make? That's why there was a question. Usually it wouldn't be a question. But because this situation, they asked who should make, the father or the kohen? The father because he's doing a mitzvah. The kohen because he's having hana. Why would that be more powerful than the mitzvah? Why would that be more powerful than the mitzvah? It would be more powerful than the mitzvah because the father is also mourning. So maybe give it to the kohen. He says, that's what happened at the story. That's the story. So the conclusion was the father. Huh? In other words, you're right. So you're asking a shaila, loy devalojna, why does Tosfos have a suffix? If this is pshat in the Gemara, they told him that Avia ben makes both, right? A. B. Very good problem, very good question. Why is there a suffix? Why is Tosfos having no suffix? And also, it's so difficult to put this in the Gemara. It's like to be mechadish that the pidyon ben there was no child here. I mean, it's an interesting chiddush, but like. You got a hint to such a thing. Like he came to Pidyon ben, hey, there was no boy there. It's a psachidish. But that's how he wants to explain what the dilemma was. The Haben is that it's a schus to do a mitzvah. You're right, I know. In other words, Lizman has said that I can do a mitzvah. No, the day that I'm doing the mitzvah, whenever the day.
Another case where something doesn't exist, I don't get that. How do you notice something doesn't exist?
Just like a baby, chas v'shalom, who passes away. Right.
So what is he doing? He's saying,
Just like a bris, also they do it. They do it.
that's on the goof of the baby. I'm saying here,
Because it's still his child. It's still his child.
so he missed an opportunity because
He has to redeem his child from the kohen. Yeah. He didn't do it in the right time. Or a week later, and he didn't do a pidyon ben. Yeah. Whether he didn't do it, he forgot there was no kohen, he didn't have money, whatever the situation was. Oh, but here's the next question, a deeper question. I ask you a question. Every time you get $5 or $80, you make a shechiyanu? You don't make a shechiyanu on every hana. I'm asking you a question. In fact, koyanim get a lot of stuff. They don't make a shechiyanu. Why? Not every time do you get something, somebody brings me a cup of coffee. Yeah? Even if it's not every day. Every day I understand it's... Even if somebody gives you a gift, you don't make a shechiyanu. You buy a new house, you make a shechiyanu. That's true. You buy a new house, because that's a very big thing. You're entering into a new home, you don't do it every week. Right? Or beged chadash. Today it's not a big deal, but in the olden days, you bought a new garment, it was a very big thing. Today, it's not... again, because of the affluence today, but it was a big thing. So people sometimes wore the same beged, the same two garments. You see Chazal speak about two garments for weekdays, for Shabbos, for how long? It was not like today. You got a new beged. It was like a wedding gown. I was like the Streimel, huh? You made a Shechiyanu. I'm sorry, what? And made a patch for the wedding. Yeah, he took the old kapata, made a new patch, yeah. So it's not that the Kohen got 5 slayim, which is, I don't know, today, $30, $40, $50, whatever the number is, between $40 and $80, somewhere there, that you make a shechiyanu. It's because the hana is coming from a mitzvah. The hana is coming from the mitzvah. It's not stama hana, you gave me $20, $50. Fine, it could be, but it's not a mitzvah that's very regular. It's a rare mitzvah. And there's also other koyanim. Remember, he's not the only koyan in the shtetl. Yeah. So since it's hana that comes from a mitzvah, so the mitzvah gives chshivas to the hana. It's not a regular 5 slayim. It's a mitzvah dika 5 slayim. It's like a unique 5 slayim. We have an expression in Chazal, isura achshaveh, or mitzvah achshaveh. The isur gives it a chashivas. The mitzvah gives it a chashivas. The mitzvah gives the hana. It's not a regular hana. It's a unique type of hana. It's a mitzvah dekahana. It's the mitzvah of the father. There's a mitzvah of Pidyon Ben that it comes out from. Huh? The father's hana is the mitzvah, you're saying. I'm sorry, what?
He gets the son clear. In exchange, he gets the son.
The son passed away. We're saying that the son passed away.
So even the shechiyanu of the kohen, according to the Haben and the Chaim, it's not stomach shechiyanu for hana, that he's getting money. It's the hana that's connected to the mitzvah that's happening. So when Tosfos says yeshli is stapik, if we should make shechiyanu in this case, so the Volozhiner Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Yitzchak Eliezer Fried, the grandson of Reb Chaim, says, but if the kohen would make it, then of course he should make hana. Why? Because mati hana liyadei. Because he's still getting the hana, but it's not a regular hana. This is a hana that's coming from the mitzvah. From whose mitzvah? The father's mitzvah. Why is there a suffix? Yeah. I'll share with you another mahalach in the Gemara. If a kohen has a son, he doesn't have to do pidyon. Could be part of it, yeah. Could be part of it, yeah. Yeah. There was once a siyum on Pesachim that the Lubavitcher Rebbe made at a Fabrengen, Yud Aleph Nisan Tovshin Chav Beis, 1962, before Pesach. And he asked all the questions on the tzlach. He brought the footnote of Chaim Volozhin as the Volozhin explanation. There's a Sam Sofer's explanation. There's another pella here, another very interesting question, and that is how it comes in here to Pesachim. How does this story come in here, Masechta Pesachim? The last Mishnah speaks about the bracha of the Pesach, the bracha of the Chagiga. Rabbi Shmuel says the bracha of the Pesach exempts the Chagiga. Rabbi Akiva says it doesn't. And then suddenly Rabbi Simloi came to Pidyon Ben. What's the connection? So the Rashbam says the connection is because since we're talking about earlier, if one person has 2 mitzvahs, can he make 1 bracha or does he have to make 2 brachas? So the question is, by a Pidyon Ben, does the father have to make 1 bracha or 2 brachas? Which seems like a little bit of a difficult question. Since the question is, if I make a bracha on Pesach, am I yotzei chagiga, or I have to make a separate bracha, like Rabbi Akiva says. So the question is, by Pidyon Ben, do I have to make both brachas, or I only make 1 bracha and the kohen makes a second bracha? That's what the Rashbam says the connection is. Because the Rashbam is looking for some type of connection to the Gemara. How does it come in here? Something has to be connected. We're not talking about Pidyon Ben. We're not talking about Shechiyanu. We're not talking about the father of the Kohen. We're not talking about the mitzvah of Pidyon Ben. We're talking about Korban Pesach, the bracha you make in the Korban Pesach, the bracha you make in the Korban Chagiga. We spoke about sprinkling the blood, throwing the blood, pouring the blood, shvicha, zrika. Where comes in Pidyon Ben? Huh? Even the Rashbam's answer, I told you the Rif and the Rosh, they take out every Gemara all the halachas and they set it up halachically. So they take out from every Masechta the halachas, they put it in the right Masechta. Where should have this been? In the Rif and the Rosh, Masechta B'chayris. But this they keep in Masechta Pesachim. This means that they believe that it was connected to Masechta Pesachim. So here's the Pshat, the Mahalach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Pshat in the Gemara, which very, very geschmack art, the Pshat of the Gemara. He said if you read the Gemara carefully, slowly, you'll see exactly what happened in the story. Because when you think about Pidyon Haben, you could think about it in two separate ways. Let's understand this. When you think the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben, you can understand it in two different ways. Pidyon Haben happens through a partnership, through a trio. There's three people involved. There's the father, there's the son, of course. If there's no son, there's nobody to redeem, and there's the kohen. If you're missing one, you can't have a Pidyon Haben. 30-day-old boy can't do Pidyon Haben himself. He's a baby. He needs the father. Or somebody representing the father. There's the child. If there's no child, there's no mitzvah Pidyon Haben. And there's, of course, the kohen. Now, the kohen is not the one who's obligated to do a Pidyon Haben. The kohen got to show up to take the money. I'm a kohen. I'm not obligated to redeem your child. It doesn't say in the Torah, you're the kohen, you have to do the Pidyon. No. You have to come take the money for the Pidyon. Yeah, I'm part of the mitzvah. But I'm not, the kohen is not obligated to do this mitzvah. The kohen is a part of the mitzvah. The kohen is a tanai in the mitzvah. The kohen is a chelik in the mitzvah. Who is the obligation on? The father. But the Rebbe said you could teach Pidyon Haben in very different ways. One way of learning Pidyon Haben is it's a mitzvah on the boy. Hashem gives a mitzvah on the boy. You were born, you're a b'chor, you have to be redeemed. The problem is, you can't give a mitzvah to a 30-day-old baby. You can give a mitzvah to an adult, not to a baby. So therefore, the Torah obligates the father as the representative of his child. Since I'm your father, I'm responsible for you. I'm responsible for you. So your responsibility is transferred, is conferred upon me as your representative. That's the mitzvah. In other words, I'm doing the mitzvah on my child. Of course it's a mitzvah on me. The Torah tells a father, redeem your child. But as what? As the representative of your son. He can't do it himself. You have to do it. Huh? On behalf. I'm working on behalf of my child. That's one way you could look at it. Or you could say, no, that's not a pshat. The mitzvah is on the father. It's a mitzvah on the father to go redeem the child. He said it's an interesting thing. If you look in Talmud Bavli and you look in Talmud Yerushalmi, they both have a halacha with different sources. What happens if I didn't redeem my son? I was a bad boy. I was a bad tati. I did not do a Pidyon Haben. My boy grows up, right? And he finds out no Pidyon Haben. What happens now? He has to do it. He can't say, oh, it's my father's problem. He has to do it. But how do you know this? So it's interesting that in Talmud Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi, there's two different sources for this halacha. In Talmud Bavli, the sources, it says, in Parshas Koirach, the Lashon in Parshas Koirach, is there a chumash? Thank you very much. In Parshas Koirach, the Lashon is, this is a Gemara in Kiddushin, Perik Yud Ches Pasuk Tesvav. Ach podoi sivde es b'chora Adam. Redeem, shall you redeem the b'chor? It says twice. Why podoi sivde twice? So the Gemara says, if you don't redeem your son, he has to redeem himself. Podei sivde es b'chora Adam. That's in Parshas Koirach. In Yerushalmi, the source is because it says in Parshas Boy, many of us say it every day in Rabbi Tam's tefillin or Rashi's tefillin. What's the lashon? It says, "V'chol b'chor adam bevanecha tivda." Every b'chor of a person, of your children, you should redeem. What's v'chol b'chor adam? The b'chor is a person. What is not an animal? It says v'chol b'chor adam bevanecha tivda means you should redeem every b'chor of your children. But then it says adam. He himself also has to redeem himself. Two different sources. Why are the two different sources? Because there's two ways of how to learn the mitzvah. One is it's a mitzvah on the child, and the father is working on behalf of the child. And one is, no, it's the lechatchila mitzvah on the father. If the father didn't do it, then the child has to do it. But it's a whole different idea. If you say the first oifen, it's a mitzvah on the child. I'm just working for you because you're a baby. So the Torah says until he grows up, he needs somebody to represent him. The moment he grows up, it's his mitzvah. Now he doesn't need you to represent him. Or you say, no, the mitzvah is lechatchila on the father. It's a mitzvah on me. It's not a mitzvah on my child. However, there's a special limud when my child grows up. He now also has a mitzvah. He can't say it's all my father. It's not all your father. It's your father, but when you grow up, you also have the mitzvah. Very good. What happens when he grows up and they both want to do the mitzvah? Good, we'll get there in a moment. Very good. That's going to be the big nafkamina here. When he's a gadol. For sure. But the shlich is not the one who's mechuyev in the mitzvah. You can make anybody a shlich. You can make your father also. But the question is, who's mechuyev in the mitzvah? Now, the pasuk v'chol b'chor adam b'vanecha tivda, that's the source in Yerushalmi. Over there, the lashon is that the father is the one who has to be paida. V'chol b'chor adam b'vanecha tivda. In Parshas Koyrech, it just says padoi tivda es b'chor adam. It doesn't say who. It says you have to redeem. In Parshas Boy, it's a connection to Yitzias Mitzrayim. Kehik shafar, Hashem killed every b'chor. Al kain kol b'chor banayavda. In Parshas Koyrech, it's just part of Matnas Kohuna. It's not connected to Makas B'chordas. It's one of Matnas Kohuna. One of the gifts you have to give to the Koyanim. Why is there this difference between where to learn it? Loi the Yerushalmi, you learn it from the same pasuk where you learn that the person has to redeem his son. Chol b'chor adam b'vanecha tivda. In other words, in the original mitzvah of Pidyon Haben, you have both obligations together. I have to redeem my son, and my son has to redeem himself. In other words, the mitzvah is a mitzvah on the child. The child can do it, I do it. When he's an adam, he does it himself. When he's a katan, I do it on his behalf because he can't do it on his own. In the Bavli, the halacha that he has to redeem himself is learned from a second pasuk by Matnas Kohuna, not part of the source of Pidyon Haben, where there's a din on the father, because the chiyuv of the son is not connected to the father. It's a separate limud. That even if I didn't do it, when the son grows up, he has a mitzvah. In other words, really, it's my obligation. It's not my obligation. It's not my son's obligation. When he grows up, it's not pshat that I lost my mitzvah. I didn't lose my mitzvah. I have to do it. However, a son is mechuyev in all the mitzvahs. One of them is that if I didn't do it or I don't want to do it, he has to do it now. So now let's understand this. Who cares whose mitzvah it is? Very simple. My boy grows up. I didn't do a Pidyon Haben for him. I become a Baal Tshuva. I say, ooh, they tell me, you have a mitzvah of Pidyon Haben? I say, my boy, come, my 20-year-old, come, we're doing a Pidyon Haben. He says, who's making the bracha? I say, I'm making the bracha. Excuse me, why are you making? It's my Pidyon. I'm making the bracha. Who wins? Huh? The boy wins? How do you know? How do you know? Depends how you learn. If you learn that the mitzvah is on the boy, it's just when he's a baby, I work on his behalf. Now he's not a baby anymore. He doesn't need a representative. I mean, if he wants to appoint you as a shliach, fine, but it's his mitzvah.
But doesn't that tell you that it's not his mitzvah? The fact that the Torah told the father to make it.
But how do you learn it? You could learn the Torah told the father because the boy can't do it. So you're working on his behalf. You're like the Torah puts you in, like you're his apotropos. You represent him. It's my money. You're right, it's my money because
That shows me that the mitzvah is on the father. Because if the mitzvah would have been on the boy, the Torah would tell you when you become 13 years old, or when you become a girl.
No, we want the mitzvah when he's 30, when he's 30 days.
That means that it's not his mitzvah.
How do you know? Maybe it's a mitzvah on the child, be'etzem, and the father is obligated to represent the child, and therefore when he grows up, you don't need a representative. It's your mitzvah. So you come to the kohen, it's your mitzvah. The father says, I want to do the mitzvah. It's very nice of you, Tati, but I'm an adult. Just like with everything else.
So the Rebbe is still speaking, and he would probably recommend it to good.
Or you say no. Or you say it's my mitzvah. It was always my mitzvah. It remains my mitzvah. That was never taken away from me. I have a mitzvah to redeem you. If I don't want to do it, the Torah says you do it. If the father doesn't want to do it, the son has to do it. That's true.
So the fact that he can do it after the zero means that it's a mitzvah of the father.
Huh? And who would then make the bracha? The father would make the bracha. It's my mitzvah. Nobody took away the mitzvah from me. I made a mistake. I didn't do it. Fine. But now I want to do it. Of course, if the son can't, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. That nobody argues. Yeah.
So you've got the power of Apokryphos
Yeah.
that exists continually.
Yeah.
If you say it is solely the son's mitzvah, then that works good. If you say it's the father's mitzvah, then as long as you still need someone to substitute for the father. If there was a father that was incapacitated, and you have a son that hadn't been redeemed, you'd still have a need for an appointment. What I don't get is that you, like, example, how do you change his status after Misa? That's what we're doing. We're redeeming someone. In this case, it's very similar. The two cases, the two sheets that say whose mitzvah is it. I don't understand fundamentally how it is that we are changing his status after Misa. You can't give a get after Misa. You can't. There's certain things that I can't.
So you would say, just like when he's a baby, the father does it on his behalf. So it would be an interesting situation that after the P'tira, the father would also do it on his behalf. Yeah, because Bezdin is achroi for Klal Yisrael, but it's not a mitzvah on them. Yeah.
So isn't that a proof that it isn't an individual mitzvah on a ben?
No, well, Bezdin always has a responsibility to try to help people do mitzvahs, but it's still a mitzvah on the individual. Yeah. Of course, it means if he's alive, he has the mitzvah. Oh, so that's the difference. In Talmud Yerushalmi, the mitzvah that the boy can do it is a separate pasuk in Kairach. Years after the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben, doesn't even mention the source of Pidyon Haben, Yitzias Mitzrayim and Makas Pcheiros. It's a separate din, Ach Padei Tivde, where the father is not even mentioned. We learn Padei Tivde, it's a mitzvah on you. That's according to the Yerushalmi. According to the Bavli, that's according to the Bavli. According to the Yerushalmi, it's right in Parshas Boy v'chol b'choir adam bevanecha tivda. In the first original mitzvah, redeem your father, and if you're a person, you redeem yourself. In the same exact verse as a connection to Makas Pcheiros, right there, you already know that the child has to redeem himself. Why? Because the Yerushalmi holds it's a mitzvah on the boy. And if the boy can do it, the father got to do it. Then when the boy can do it, the boy does it. And in the Bavli, it's not that way. It's a mitzvah on the father. He says, now look at the story. Reb Simloi, look in the Gemara, you'll see. Reb Simloi comes to a Pidyon Haben. They say to him, Pshita, al Pidyon Haben, asher kedeshanu mitzvah v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben, avi Haben mevorech. It's Pshita. By them it was simple, that when it comes to Pidyon Haben, the bracha, asher kedeshanu mitzvah v'tzivanu, he commanded us. Who makes the bracha? Avi Haben. And the way he said it, the Gemara doesn't give a time limit when Avi Haben makes it. Avi Haben always makes it. Meaning Avi Haben mevarech, even if the boy is 40 years old, he still makes the bracha al Pidyon Haben. Why? Because it's his mitzvah. He's the one who makes asher kedeshanu mitzvah al Pidyon Haben. Avi Haben mevarech, the father always makes the bracha al Pidyon Haben, always, when he's 30 days old and when he's 30 years old. Because it's a mitzvah on him. Nobody ever takes away that mitzvah from me. True, if I don't want to do it, my boy has to do it. We have a special limud that there's also another person. It would be like a guarantor, so to speak. If I have a loan, I have to pay you back. Right? I may have also somebody, right, on Arvei, who says, okay, if the guy defaults, Come to me. But it doesn't mean I don't have to pay back my loan. There is a type of guarantor where you could send the person l'chatchila to the guarantor. But I'm talking about, a lot of people do that. But I'm talking about a regular loan. I have to pay you. If I don't do it, my son has to do it. That's true. As an adult. Because he's an adult. But the mitzvah is on me. So if I want to do it, I make the bracha. You don't say it's a bracha levatala. It's not a bracha levatala. Avia ben mevarech. That was the pshita. If that's the case, now we have a question when it comes to shechiyanu. Since the chiyuv is always on the father, always, avia ben mevarech, always, even after he's an adult, the father still says, it's a mitzvah on me. You can't say a bracha on Pidyon ben of my son. It's a bracha levatala. You don't have such a mitzvah. The fact that I'm a father and I make the bracha even when you're an adult means that it's my mitzvah. So then they have a question on shechiyanu. Why? If the mitzvah was on the son, not on the father, then they wouldn't have a question on shechiyanu. You know why they wouldn't have a question on shechiyanu? Let's think about this. I'm a shliach for my child. It's not my mitzvah, so I don't make a shechiyanu. If I send you to do a mitzvah for me, right? As a shliach, you never make a shechiyanu. A shliach never makes a shechiyanu. Why? Because what's a shechiyanu for? Shechiyanu is you're doing a mitzvah that you're obligated in. Once in a while, it's a big simcha. But if you're the shliach, you're not obligated. You're just doing it on my behalf. So the bracha you make. But shechiyanu you can't make. Because the shechiyanu is coming from the simcha. You're excited. Shechiyanu, but you're working for me. It's not your mitzvah. So if the father was working as a shliach for his son, so then it's not his mitzvah. Whose mitzvah is it? It's his son's mitzvah. It's just his son can't do the mitzvah. If that's the case, it wouldn't be a shayla who makes shechiyanu. Of course, the kohen should make the bracha shechiyanu. You know why? Because the kohen, mati anali yadeh. The kohen has an enjoyment. Shechiyanu v'kimanu v'gyanu lizman hazeh. I have ano. The father is doing the Pidyon haben. He's doing it for his son. It's the mitzvah of his son. That's what they said pshita. Pshita, since it's pashat, that avi haben mevarech, not like the tzlach, that it's al Pidyon haben. No, avi haben mevarech. The father always makes the bracha, even as an adult. In other words, it's his mitzvah. If it's his mitzvah, he's not getting money, but he's doing a mitzvah. So maybe now it's not so pasha that the kohen should make it. If you would say it's the son's mitzvah, so the father is really only like the father is nicht the heit mechutin here. The father is just the guy who's acting on behalf. He's like what's the word for it in law when you? He's like a power of attorney. He's not the guy. I mean, he's the guy, but it's a power of attorney. That's what he is. It's not his mitzvah, but if you say Avia ben Mevarech, he's not getting money, he's giving money. But he's doing a mitzvah, he's doing his mitzvah. V'harai, even in 30 years, he's going to have to say the bracha al Pidyon haben, even if his son is an adult, because it's his mitzvah. Even though there's a halacha that if he doesn't do it, his son does it. His son has a mitzvah, but it doesn't take away from the father's mitzvah. So now they have a question. Without the pshita, they wouldn't have a question that the kohen makes shechiyanu. But because it's pshita that it's the father's mitzvah, so then he should make shechiyanu. Or maybe you say no. The kohen gets the hana. Now you can ask a question. Let them both say shechiyanu. Let them both say shechiyanu. What do you care? But the pshat is they can't make both shechiyanu. Why? Because as we explained, shechiyanu you're not making for the hana, for just having money, getting money. You're making shechiyanu because it's hana that comes from a mitzvah. Which mitzvah? What's the mitzvah? The mitzvah is a mitzvah of Pidyon haben. The mitzvah gives the hana a special prominence. If the father is making shechiyanu, why is he making shechiyanu? For the mitzvah itself. Now you want the kohen to make shechiyanu for the hana that's tuffle to the mitzvah. That wouldn't work. The father is making shechiyanu for the mitzvah itself. The kohen is making shechiyanu not for hana stam, he got money. It's for the hana that came with the mitzvah. It's subservient to the mitzvah. So there wouldn't be a separate shechiyanu for that. The Meiri writes the kohen can't make shechiyanu because he's taking away from other kohanim. By me getting the money, you're not getting the money. So it's shechiyanu for me and it's a loss for you. That's what the Miri writes. The Rashba writes, you don't have two people making shechiyanu for the same thing. You have to understand why not. According to this, we can understand here because the shechiyanu of the kohen would be a subservient shechiyanu to the father's shechiyanu. He's making shechiyanu for the hana, which is tafel to the mitzvah. So it's wrong to make a shechiyanu for the part that's tafel to the mitzvah. Because he made shechiyanu for the mitzvah itself. So why is he making shechiyanu? For the hana. On hana, you don't make a shechiyanu unless it's a huge hana. Elamai, you're making on the hana because it became part of a mitzvah. But I already made on the mitzvah itself. So it's much more encompassing. You don't make a shechiyanu on this. Yeah. That's very good. That's the vert. That's the pshita. Very good. If the father was just the guardian, then they wouldn't have a question who makes shechiyanu. For sure the kohen should make shechiyanu. But since Avi Haben Mevorich always, now he should make shechiyanu. This answers a gewaldige word. The Tzlach's explanation was beautiful. Why al? But according to the Tzlach, Reb Simloi went to them, and what did they tell him? Avi Haben Mevorich Shtayim. We never asked about two. We asked about shechiyanu. It's like, again, you don't know what to make on rice. You go to the Beis Medrash, yeah? And they say, on coffee, shahakal, and on rice. I never asked you. Why Avi Ben Mevorich Shtayim? Avi Ben Mevorich shechiyanu. V'hilchis Avi Ben Mevorich shechiyanu. The first bracha was not under question. Why are you answering the second about this first bracha when we never asked about it? The answer is, now we understand beautifully. That was their answer. Their answer is Avi Ben Mevorich Shtayim. The same reason that he's making Al Pidyon Ben is the same reason he's making Shechiyanu. If they wouldn't say Avi Ben Mevorich Shtayim, you could say, why doesn't the Kohen make Shechiyanu? Maybe the Hana is not enough. Maybe there's another reason why he doesn't make Shechiyanu. Maybe there's different reasons he doesn't make Shechiyanu. Maybe a kohen doesn't make on other matnas kohuna. When you give a kohen truma, he doesn't make shechiyanu. When you give a kohen, when a Levi gives him trumas meiser.
Kohen has a mitzvah. Or the mitzvah's on the Yisrael to give.
The pashtus on the Yisrael to give. But Pidyon but that Pidyon Ben also doesn't have a mitzvah. But you could say the kohen is a chelik of the mitzvah, a t'nai in the mitzvah, a din in the mitzvah, however you touch it. So you could say there's different reasons the kohen doesn't make shechiyanu. Maybe it's not enough of hana. They want to negate all of this. They want to say, you know why he doesn't make shechiyanu? Because Avi Ben Mevorich Shtayim. In other words, it's one reason for both. Just like the father makes Pidyon Ben, why does he make Pidyon Ben? Why? Because it's his mitzvah. The main mitzvah is his, not that he's doing it for his son. It's a mitzvah on him, and that's why even when his son is obligated, he still makes the bracha. The same reason he makes shechiyanu, because it's his mitzvah, and he gets to do a gewaldige mitzvah once in a lifetime, so he makes a shechiyanu. The kohen is getting the hana, okay? The kohen is getting the hana, gewaldig. Just like if the son is an adult, the son is also getting a hana, but the father makes the bracha. Why doesn't the son make the shechiyanu? Same vart. Just like the kohen doesn't make the shechiyanu. Very good question, because it's the father's mitzvah. That's why they say shtayim, not Avi Ben Mevorich Shechiyanu, Avi Ben Mevorich Shtayim, because the geder why he makes Shechiyanu is the same geder why he makes Al Pidyon Ben, always, because it's his mitzvah. That's why there's v'hilchas Avi Ben Mevorich Shtayim. The Shtayim brings out the answer why he and not the kohen makes Shechiyanu. No, if it's a mitzvah on the son, he has the hana. If it's a mitzvah on the father, he has the hana. Gewaldig, just like the kohen gets the money. Everybody gets benefits here. The son gets a benefit, and the kohen gets a benefit. Everybody gets a benefit. But who's doing the mitzvah? Who's the kedushanim and mitzvahs of tzivanu? The father. I guess spiritually. Oy bazoi. It's clear why it's at the end of Pesachim. Because in Torah Shebeksav, how does the sipur of Yetzias Mitzrayim finish? If you go to Parshas Boy, literally, Parshas Boy, how does it end? Your son is going to ask you tomorrow why you're doing all this, and you're going to tell him. Hashem killed every b'chor beretz Mitzrayim b'chor adam al kein ani zavech l'Hashem kol peterechem ascharim v'chol b'chor banai evde. God killed all their b'chorim. He redeemed all our b'chorim. So that's why I'm doing that. Every b'chor that I have is holy, and I, so to speak, redeem it from Hashem. Then he said, that's how Torah Shebeksav ends Yitzias Mitzrayim. So Torah Shebal Peh is Masechta Pesachim. So you go through a whole Masechta Pesachim. How does he end? He ends with the same mitzvah, Pidyon Haben. Because what's the result of Yitzias Mitzrayim? What's the mitzvah that was born directly out of Yitzias Mitzrayim? Directly. All the mitzvahs are connected to Yitzias Mitzrayim, Zeichel Yitzias Mitzrayim. Because they're all ultimately connected to us going out of Mitzrayim. But which mitzvah directly commemorates what happened by Yitzias Mitzrayim? Only one mitzvah. And that is Pidyon Abchor. So just like in Torah Shebeksav, the chiyuv of Pidyon Haben is because of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and that's how it ends. So in Masechta Pesachim, which the main idea of Masechta Pesachim is Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the word Pesach is, what's Pesach? Pesachim. That he jumped over the homes of the Jewish people when he killed all their elders, and he redeemed the Jewish b'chores, but Teinu Hitzil, our b'chores, our homes he saved. That's the reason for Pidyon Haben. So therefore, that's the end. That's the mesuvav. That's the summation of Masechta Pesachim, the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben. But it's more than that. It's more than that, because the Chaim Sofer has a word in one of his Shal Setshuvas. He says, we say, "Vayikik shefaru shalchenu, vayareg Hashem kol b'cher be'etzem b'chelim b'cher behema, al kein ani zaveich l'Hashem kol peterechem ascharim v'chol b'cher b'nayevda al kein ani." He says, what's the al kein ani? What's the al kein ani? He says, what's ani? Al kein. That's why we do it. So he says as follows. Interesting word. Pidyon Haben you could do through a shliach, like we said. Al, you say al because you don't have to do it yourself. He says, but yet most fathers will not appoint a shliach. They'll always try to do it themselves. And he says when they had a b'chor, an animal, they used to go and shecht it themselves because shchita ksheira bizarre. A kohen doesn't have to do shchita. Yeah. So he says, why did people do it themselves? Al kein ani. I'm doing it. V'chol b'chor ben evde. Says the reason is because vayareg Hashem kol b'chor. Says ani v'loy shliach. Hashem didn't send a shliach. He did it himself. He did it himself. So therefore, al kein ani. I also want to do it myself, even though God could have also sent a shliach, but He didn't. Like we say in the Haggadah, ani. I did it myself. Hashem mitzayim lo yadei shliach lo yadei saruf b'chvoidei ba'atzmai. That's why I want to do it myself. That's what he says. Al kein ani zaveich l'Hashem. But here we have the nekuda of why the father has to make shechiyanu. How were the b'chorim saved? Because Hashem leaped over their homes. He himself took out the Jewish people from Mitzrayim. He acted like a father who saved his child, B'ni b'chori Yisrael. First thing Moshe tells Pari is B'ni b'chori Yisrael. The Jewish people are my b'chor. So Hashem saved the b'chor. So therefore, what's the mitzvah? Is the mitzvah on the father or on the child? The mitzvah is on the father. The whole mitzvah comes from because God took care of His children. He redeemed His children. He liberated His children. That's the connection to Pesachim. So in the end of Pesachim, what's the story? The story is it's a mitzvah on the father. It's not a mitzvah on the child. The father does it today like the father did it then. Like our Father in heaven did it then. So it's pshita that the father makes the bracha. If he makes the bracha, it's because it's his mitzvah. Even when the boy is an adult, he makes the bracha. Therefore, we have a question on shechiyanu, and therefore we say he also makes shechiyanu because it's his mitzvah. This is not birchas hanenin. This is birchas hamitzvahs. No, over there was birchas hamitzvahs also. Birchas haPesach is the mitzvah. The end of boy, the end of boy, the last psukim of Parshas boy. No, the end of Parshas Yitzias Mitzrayim. The last piece, V'hoyaki v'yacha, is about Pidyon Haben. That's how Parshas boy ends. The Havana of the Gemara. How you learn Pidyon Haben, what was the pshita? The question is how you define Pidyon Haben. Is it a mitzvah on the son or a mitzvah on the father? So the pshita is that it's a mitzvah on the father, so therefore there's a shayla on shechiyanu. If not, there wouldn't be a shayla on shechiyanu. And that's why they had to bring the pshita, and that's why they answer shtayim. And that's why it comes at the end of Pesachim. You typhus? Huh? So loy the Yerushalmi taka, the mitzvah is on the son. But in the Bavli, the mitzvah is on the father. It's pshitted that it's the father. And they have to say it. Since the mitzvah is on the father, the question is who makes shechianu. If the mitzvah was on the son, it wouldn't be a shaila that the kohen should make shechianu. Since it's a mitzvah on the father, there's a shaila. And the answer is that the father makes. Why? Because mavarich shtayim, just like he makes the first bracha al Pidyon Haben, because it's his mitzvah. Even if the son is an adult, he still makes al Pidyon Haben because it's his mitzvah. And therefore, when the son is a baby, he makes the shechiyanu because it's his mitzvah, even though the kohen gets anah. But the kohen's anah can't be more important than his mitzvah. The kohen's anah is coming from his mitzvah. So his mitzvah trumps the anah of the kohen. If the father is not around, then we have a special limud, padoi tivda, that the son is mechuyev to redeem himself. Still. Everyone holds the son has to redeem himself. The question is, whose mitzvah is it when the son is an adult? If the father wants to do it, can he do it or he can't? Let's say the son is an adult. The father says, I want to do the mitzvah. I want to give the kohen the money. I want him to do the mitzvah. I want to make the bracha. Can the son say, sorry, too late? You woke up too late. So we're saying that the Bavli says, pshita, that it's the father who does it. Tomorrow we're going to start Be'ezer Hashem Daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph, the sugya of Reb Chanina Sgan HaKoyanim, which is the main sugya in Shas of Tumah and Tahara. Have a wonderful day.